Hello, my authentic and ambitious peoples. Thank you so much for listening today. Hey, before I get started on episode number 132, holy smokes, 132 episodes. And those are the numbered ones. Before I get started, I want to let you know about a new way to connect with me and a new way for me to connect with you. One of the things I'm I am committed to is more connection and less automation. And so I have a text list that I send. I call it the happy text. And if you would like to receive almost daily, I don't do it every single day. I give myself some time off, but almost every single day, just some love and encouragement straight from my phone to yours via text. You can send me a text right now at 512-729-3079. And if you're hearing this right here, text the word podcast to me just so I know that you came through the podcast. I've been doing this for a couple weeks, just gently loving on my people, supporting you, sharing things that I know I need to hear randomly throughout the day. It's called the happy text. It's for me. It's really me. It's really me. It's not automated. It's me when I think and go live and send you a love bomb throughout the day. So 512-729-3079. And if you're listening here, whether you're listening to the live recording or whether you're listening to the podcast episode on iTunes, just text me the word podcast. That way I'll know you came through the podcast. So with that, this is episode number 132, and we're going to talk about betting on yourself over and over, actually again and again, betting on yourself again and again. So I want to tell you a hokey little story about me. When I was probably 10 or 11 years old, I had this fantasy. This is really corny. This fantasy of being discovered for being remarkably unique. And one day I begged my brother, Cameron, who is a year younger than me, to let me. I'm going to take off my jacket because I guarantee you my podcast producer will be like, what is this sound? Sorry, Elise. That is a new lesson. Do not wear a puffy jacket while you're trying to record a podcast. Okay, so I begged my brother when I was about 11. That means he was probably 10, and it was his chore to mow the yard. I was like, please let me mow the yard. And here's why. It's not that I really wanted to mow the yard, but I knew that if I mowed the yard, then a limo with a Hollywood producer would drive down Bowman Avenue, which is the street my parents live on. It's not a busy street, but that this Hollywood producer would drive down Bowman Avenue and be stunned and enchanted by the special little girl who was mowing the yard, because girls did not mow yards. And he would see my uniqueness and my specialness, and he would say, I'm going to take a chance on this girl. I would be discovered. I know it's really corny. So I did the mowing job. I did a terrible job of it. And the whole time I was mowing, I was like looking over my shoulder, waiting to be discovered. And I have shared that story a couple times with clients. And I have clients that also have their version of that. And no one is coming to discover us. So there's a couple of things that we do. This could be a whole podcast in itself. Waiting for discovery, waiting to know our purpose, waiting to resolve our shit, waiting for signs for the universe, needing to have passion, waiting for certainty, waiting to be rescued, having somebody come in else and rescue us, waiting for permission for others, and waiting for everything to be perfect. Those are reasons that we stop ourselves. And I want you to stop stopping yourself, and I want you to start betting on yourself again and again and again. Speaking of which, my banner is a little incorrect. Let's update that. Betting on yourself again and again. And so one of the things that has created the success that I've had in my business over the last 17 years are the bets that I take on myself. What do I mean by betting on yourself? Well, in relation to the story about being discovered, my fantasy of being discovered is that somebody would take a chance on me and they would give me their faith and belief and behavior and opportunity. And betting on yourself is giving yourself that faith, that behavior, that opportunity. Let me fix that. Let's hit save. Let's show that. There we go. Betting on yourself again and again. So the fantasy of discovery, and I know now this is a mental trick in our brain when we want to avoid discomfort. No one is going to come, as my mom told me. I've shared this story before too, as my mom told me when I was living at home my 5th year of college, my second senior year, and I was waiting. It was a Friday night and I was upset, and because I didn't have a boyfriend and because I didn't have any girlfriends. And my mom was like, well, what do you think they're going to do? Do you think they're going to drive down Bowman Avenue? And so this was interesting, right? Like I still had the same fantasy as a 5th year senior in college, that somebody was going to drive down Bowman Avenue and see the light on in my room, which faced the street, and say, oh, there's an amazing girl in there and I'd like to date her. I'd like to be friends with her. And so often we're waiting for this discovery, and I want you to stop. I want you to stop waiting, and I want you to start betting on yourself. I get that it is human and our brain wants to be efficient, and our brain isn't really excited about taking those risks. We want that certainty. We want somebody else to validate us. But when we can begin to make that bet because we believe in ourselves, and even if it's shaky, rumbly belief, one of the things that I know helps me is by doubling down on myself. And I have quite a few instances in betting on myself. Sometimes it's a financial bet. Sometimes it's an emotional bet. Sometimes it's a decision bet. By going live today here, by creating every single week on my podcast, I am doubling down on myself. I am not waiting to be discovered. I am putting myself in front of your face. Because I decided, because I believe that my message, my words, my stories will resonate with the right aligned people, and that it will help you. So here's another one. I may have spoken about this last week too. We want other people to refer us, right? And sometimes like, oh, I do business by referral only. But what if you're your greatest referrer? Betting on ourselves is an act of faith in our belief in our service and our product and what we have to offer the world. And no amount of discovering or validation from the outside world can give that to you. You have got to dig deep and give it to yourself. And then once you get it, how are you going to embody it? So I have, here's a handful of some of the bets I've made. Now, this is just some. These are some of the bets I've made on myself. So the first one obviously was, well, not the first one. The first one I have on this list because there were many more before that. But the first one was leaving a stable income of a salary job to become self-employed and 100% commission-based business owner. Deciding to do that for myself. And at the time I had a mortgage. At the time I was single. My husband had just left and I was living in and determined to keep the house that his income paid for, and my teacher income certainly didn't pay for it. Investing money to hire my first coach so that I'd be likely to be more successful as a commission-based business owner was a bet on myself. I bet on myself at one point in my marriage with Bill. This was early in our marriage. He was not comfortable with somebody who was self-employed. It was not a part of his world growing up. He grew up military, and having his family had a paycheck every last Friday of the month. As a teacher for 29 years, he had that. And as a retired teacher, he still has that guaranteed check. And I felt this calling from deep inside to be self-employed and to do this thing. And my husband was not okay with it. And ultimately we had a conversation, and I said, I need to do this. And if it is a no-go for you, then we can dissolve our marriage. And I wasn't just betting on myself and my business. I was also betting on our marriage. But that was a big one, like to say, I need to be fully me. And if that means losing my marriage, because I wasn't willing to bend, I wanted to be pleasing to him, but I wasn't willing to bend what I knew in my soul. I believed in myself, even if he didn't at the time. Now he's the biggest fan. This is one I have bet on myself and lost money. So not always money, but this one I did. I bet about $30,000 on an advertising campaign that ultimately failed. I wanted to experiment with Facebook ads, the whole webinar thing a few years ago. And I certainly, that investment did not necessarily return the money that I spent on it, but I learned something. Some bets fail, but it was so worth it to bet on myself. It felt good and scary to take a risk, even if the risk didn't pan out. I have bet on myself over and over and over by being willing to ask, to invite, to make offers and invitations daily. My coach reminds me all the time, because I have a hard time seeing it, that I am really good at sales and enrolling and creating right-aligned clients. And sometimes my head gets in a story. And so part of my bet is not just the big things, but it's the daily do of being a business owner and offering my services to help somebody. So that one, I have bet on myself by showing my authentic self. And when I first started doing that, it was not popular. It has certainly become a thing, especially in the online world, but it was not popular when I did that in my real estate career. It was not even popular when I did that online, but I bet on myself by showing up as me, authentic, ambitious, not just the polished leader, but also the leader in process. In the last couple of years, I have bet on myself by hiring team members that are better at doing their job than I am and things that aren't a good use of my money. So it's interesting. I got my 2020 profit and loss and year-end statement, and I was looking not only at my gross income and my net income, but I was paying attention to my expenses. And I spent $43,000 on coaching last year, and I spent $43,000 on my team. And to me, it's an expense, but it's not an expense. It's betting on myself. It's a bet on my belief that this shit is working, this shit is contributing, this shit matters, what I do and be there. It's not about the goal or the outcome, but I am investing financially and emotionally in my growth, my contribution, and in my clients. Heart pounding, Leslie, right? And I'm not saying you have to spend that kind of money. I have grown to spend that, but I also had the biggest financial year I've ever had. And so it's, last week, I have a high level coach. She is certainly able to hold my business and my emotions. And there's something that I'm experiencing and going through emotional that I'm sure y'all will hear about, but I realized I wanted a very specific kind of help. And so I hired a one-on-one coach who also has a therapeutic background to help hold me and coach me and teach me about my self-leadership and my emotional self as I go through this. And she asked in some of our pre-session work about why I did this. And I bet on myself by asking for help instead of being overly fucking independent. And if anything, over the last 3 years, what I've learned is asking for help. And it is not easy for me to ask for help. I'm getting better and better at it, but allowing myself to receive support, receive help. I can be very quick and mentally agile. I can self-coach my ass off. But reaching out to somebody and say, I would like an extra layer of support. And so last week's episode, which hasn't been published, is about self-leadership. And self-leadership is cultivating the environment for you to grow. Self-leadership isn't just about the flower you're becoming. It's about the soil you plant yourself in. And so that's another way that I bet on myself. The bet is made at the moment. I go from anxiety and wonder to decision. And so I want to share this with you today and encourage you to be a decider. Please don't wait for somebody to discover you, to rescue you, to give you permission, to tell you it's okay. I want you to listen to yourself. If you trusted yourself, what would you do? That is the easiest way to know what the next bet is. What would you do if you trusted yourself completely? What would you do for yourself, for your marriage, for your life, for your body, for your business, for your clients, for your team, for your emotions, for your spirituality? Betting on myself is the ultimate ownership and self-accountability. And it is the primary fuel. My brain wants to go to this cheesy little like rocket fuel of betting on myself, not only in money, but in action, in attitude, of doing the work, of showing up, being present. And so I want to ask you today, what bets have you made on yourself? I want you to, first of all, give you, as I start this podcast and I see episode number 132, I'm like, hell yeah, bitches. 132. And it's interesting. There's all this stuff going on right now in the news. Who knows if it will still be in the news by the time this is published, but about Robinhood and the GameStop stocks. And I actually use Robinhood as an app to invest in some stocks. And some I actually sold my GameStop when I first got it. I was like, GameStop, let's get rid of that. That's funny. Because it gave me free GameStop when I first started using the Robinhood app. And as I look, I only have like $2,300 in my Robinhood app, but I have spent about $13 to make an extra $1,000. And so I was going to teach myself by investing in things that I care about. So I invest in 2 of my clients' companies. I invest in Zoom. I invest in Ford because I have a Ford pickup truck. And so I actually invested in Moderna when I heard that they were going to do some vaccine stuff early on. I invest in gold because my husband loves gold and silver. And I invest in CVS because that's where I love my CVS pharmacist. So I'm not giving investment advice, but just to let you know how I'm playing with this. And it's interesting because as I look at it, I have about a $1,300 or about $1,000 growth in that. And maybe they call it gambling. But I tell you what, they say the house always wins. I'm the house in this scenario. I am not betting against me. I am betting for me and for my growth. And so I want you to bet on your success and your possibility and your growth and your process. I do not want you to bet on your doubts and your excuses. I want you to stop waiting for permission. I want you to check in with yourself. And what would you do if you trusted yourself? What help would you get? Where would you invest in your growth? Are you avoiding strategic risk and investment? Or are you waiting to be discovered? Stop waiting. What would you do if you really trusted yourself? What would you do if you moved through and met discomfort? Stop betting on comfort. Start making moves, making uncomfortable moves that you know work. But their visibility is uncomfortable sometimes. Habits are uncomfortable sometimes. Asking for the sale, getting better at sales, not just so many business owners are so great at their service, but y'all fucking suck at your business. You suck at running your business. So invest in it. Invest in getting better as a business owner and give it the time and discomfort it takes. Invest. One of my clients sent me a message today. She said, could you send me your expenses track, the budget for my, just the expense, where I track my personal and professional expenses and my profit first allocations. And what I love is that she is betting on herself. Instead of saying, oh, I don't have my money shit together. She says, I am going to spend an hour every single day looking at my money, looking at where I spend money, looking at where money comes in, looking where I'm wasting money, and looking where I could be investing. That's a bet on her future self. That is a bet on her growth in the area of being a wise steward of both her income and her expenses. You can take bold moves in your life to be your biggest fan and your own angel investor. Or you can mow the yard on a secret little street in Austin, Texas, and wait for Oprah or some big producer to drive by and discover you. What will it be? What will it be? You get to decide. So with that, I want to thank you for spending time with me. Thank you for those who are here live. Again, I want to share my text number if you are in the United States or Canada. I don't know. I don't think Europe does it. If Europe does do it, you'd have to put the one key on there and there might be fees. But if you want to join my happy text list, it's really just for me to love on and connect individually with my people. So I do send out a group text, but I can feel you and receive you and encourage you individually. My phone number to text the word podcast, just so that I know that you came from the podcast, 512-729-3079. And then also I want to let you know if you'd like to become a member of Soulful Success. I'm going to keep the doors open this spring. I'm not doing any big promos, but if you want to become a membership client of mine, I have a coaching membership that I would love to have you and welcome you in as a way of betting on yourself. We have business calls every Monday and life calls every Thursday. And we have a community of people. And so one of the ways I invest in myself is by surrounding myself with like-minded people, hiring the best coaches in the world, and being a member of communities where I'm not alone in this journey. So I want to invite you to that. And finally, if I am starting to enroll and have conversations for my high-level mastermind, Spark and Hustle. Don't think hustle grind, think hustle roller skate. And if that's something you might be interested in, the investment is $18,000. It's a year-long program with women who are multi-six-figure business owners. They are definitely in achievement phase. It is a small group. We cap out at 12. We may not even have that many, but we are finishing up. Spark and Hustle 2020 finishes up at the end of March, and we will be starting again in May. So if you would like to get on in that, there's some early sign-on bonuses. We certainly need to have a conversation. There is no sales page, but it is supreme emotional, strategic support, and a great way for you to bet on yourself. Thanks for listening. Love you. Appreciate you.